Yes, hello everyone. Fáilte Rashkady Cúilín Media. Welcome back for another weekend preview show here on Cúilín Media. It's myself, Seamus Brady, joined by Liam White for this week's episode. The two of us were off on our travels, as Aaron said, in the weekend review show with Jason Keelan. Big shout out to him. Go check out the Loaf of Bread GA podcast if you haven't already. Jason jumped on the Sunday to help us out. Liam, we were off on our travels. We have a lot of action to dive into here with the club championship action again heating up this weekend, when we also have the GA championship draw, which was literally made seconds ago, and we are going to dive into that, recapping on it and what are the ties that we're looking forward to, etc. But Liam, good to have you back. How was your holiday? And a lot to dive into.
Yeah, it was great. I was in Holland for a couple of days. I was in around Amsterdam and different parts of it, and it was really nice. Now, to be fair, the weather was a bit cold and a bit wet, but similarly to here, so I felt like being at home. But no, it was still nice to get away for a couple of days. Managed to keep up with some of the games that were happening here as well, and of course, North London is red, so that's always a great thing. And it was even further red after yesterday, but I won't dive into that. But yeah, look, it was nice to get away for a couple of days. But yeah, it's good to be chatting back. We've, like you mentioned there, a cracking weekend of games to look forward to in both hurling and football, and obviously with the draw that's just been made, which has thrown up some tasty looking ties. So yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, well, that's where we're going to start. Given that it was only seconds ago, we are now going to give our live reaction, instant reaction, to the championship draws that have just been made. Gavin O'Reilly saying here, thoughts on the draw, lads? We are going to dive right in, and we're going to go province by province. Liam, looking at it here, I have them all in, ready to be shown up on screen. We're going to start off with, in my opinion, the most competitive province in the last decade at least, the Ulster Football Championship. And that was the last one that was made there. We can see it up on the screen. Armagh against Tyrone in the preliminary quarter-final. I mean, what a start to the championship that is. The winner of that will go into the quarter-final against Fermanagh. We have Donegal playing against Down, of course, the defending Ulster champions, going up against the recent Tailteann Cup champions there. So big clash there. Monaghan against Cavan. That's always a tasty rivalry. And Derry against Antrim as well. That would be very, very interesting. Semi-finals then. The winners of Derry and Antrim will play the winners of Monaghan Cavan. We can see either Donegal or Down face off against Fermanagh, Armagh or Tyrone. And then who could be in that Ulster final? Well, Liam, looking at it there, what are your first takes on it?
Do Monaghan and Cavan just have a clause where they just play each other every year? Like, I'm starting to get a bit like, it's like, do you remember how Munster used to always be playing Racing in the Champions Cup in rugby? I know there was a meaning behind that, but Jesus, like, it must be rigged at this point that those two teams must play against each other. But like you mentioned there, it's also a great rivalry over the last couple of years. They've both been fairly evenly matched against each other. Now, with the form Monaghan showed last year, I still probably expect them to maybe go through next season. But yeah, look, Cavan would still fancy their chances potentially there. Derry and Antrim, I think for Antrim, look, it's going to be tough, obviously, going away from home against a Derry team who, let's be honest with you, they've been fairly poor the last 2 years, but they'll want to rejuvenate next year. There's no question about that. Armagh Tyrone in a preliminary quarterfinal is absolutely scintillating, especially with the cracker that they threw up this year in the semi-final. Like Armagh were 4 or 5 points in front on two separate occasions, and Tyrone kept battling back, and in the end Armagh only won with the last kick of the game. But still, if there was ever a game I think other than potentially Donegal Armagh from last season, that could be the only one that could probably rival that. But yeah, I think what's actually incredible here now to see is that you'll have one of Donegal, Armagh or Tyrone that definitely won't be in the final this year, which is very, very interesting to see, considering the last two finals have been Armagh, Donegal. Donegal were in the final against Derry a couple of years ago as well. So yeah, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic draw, I think. Going away to Fermanagh as well for Armagh and Tyrone, it won't be the simplest of places to go to. There's no question about that. Donegal Down. Look, Donegal were a bit stronger than Down this year. They kind of bet them in, I would probably say, relatively second gear in the Ulster semi-final. But Down are a very good team. They have some really impressive footballers. They pushed Monaghan all the way. They pushed Galway all the way this year. They won the Tailteann Cup a couple of years ago, like you mentioned. So, yeah, I think it's a decent draw. Some good games to look forward to. If we could, I feel for a lot of neutrals, if we could get another Donegal-Armagh clash, then, and have all maybe, I don't know whether we want the drama of what happened after the match last year, but certainly the drama that happened on the pitch. But yeah, I think it's a very good open draw in Ulster.
It's absolutely unbelievable. And then when we were having the debate about the route that certain teams had to go through to get to the Sam Maguire Cup, the Ulster Championship was my example of why, in my opinion, if you wanted that it wasn't fair to have it that, just getting to a provincial final meant you're in the Sam Maguire, because you look at like what Fermanagh have to go through, what Antrim have to go through to get to the Ulster final is ridiculous. Like Fermanagh there, you've got a Division 3 side who now have to go through either Armagh or Tyrone and then potentially either Donegal or Down just to get to the final. It's absolutely crazy. So how that was ever being held to the same account as beating a couple of Division 4 teams in order to get to the Sam Maguire in back-to-back years, I just never agreed with it. But the way that the draw has gone, I think, we're going to see it a lot more on merit this year, in my opinion. Gavin says that's a good draw. Cavan, I would have preferred Antrim, but Cavan's good in Clonus and hard to know where Derry's at. And obviously this is for Monaghan. Gavin also says Armagh Tyrone's going to be tasty. RIP for Fermanagh afterwards, though. Bonner could get a kick out of them, though, on top of that. I do think, Fermanagh going into that game, they'll have nothing to lose. They will have nothing to lose. All of the attention is going to be on that clash between Armagh and Tyrone. And Fermanagh over the past few years, most notably, I think, was it 2018 when they took out Monaghan, who were absolutely at the peak of their powers at that time. Monaghan went on to reach the All-Ireland Semi Final that year. And Fermanagh took them out with a last-minute goal. They'll go into that game knowing we've got nothing to lose here. Nothing to lose at all. And they just can go and have a swing at it, because Armagh and Tyrone are going to take lumps out of each other. Regardless of who comes through that game, there's going to be a few injuries. There's going to be a few sore bodies going into that clash against Fermanagh. And the reality is that Armagh, I know that they were a whisker away, but we're talking millimeters. And when you look at the tariff that they had to pay to get through that Tyrone clash, it went down to the wire the way that it did, compared to Donegal's route, which was a little bit more straightforward. Was that the grain of rice that tipped it in the scale retrospectively now looking back? We don't know. Peter here is saying, good debate on the smaller fish today about the timing of the draws. Wooly arguing for the end of January. What's your take, lads? Too early or now the right time? It's a very good debate, isn't it? And the reality is, and I'm not going to lie, I haven't heard that debate from Colin Parkinson yet. I probably will listen to it after this. I do think he comes out with some very good takes. I would be interested in moving it a little bit further back, because in my opinion, it kind of gets forgotten about then as well. I think if we were to see some league form and stuff like that, and then you were to make the championship draw when people are on that buzz of warming up for championship, I think it would get better viewing figures, it would get better interest. But I understand as well that for booking stadiums and for people trying to fit their calendar around it, the better notice they have and everything like that. But what would your take on it be?
I think, like what you said there, it ultimately comes down to them trying to make schedules at the moment, and especially we've seen it with the GA calendar over the last couple of years. It's getting smaller and smaller, or bigger and bigger, if you want to look at it that way. You're trying to fit in fixtures. There's more games now than ever. You're playing more games now in how many games did Donegal play last year? Do you know how many games did Louth have to play, or teams like Kerry or any of these teams? They had to play so many games of football last year, and even the round robin in the hurling as well. You're playing a lot more games now rather than just playing one game and potentially being out, or playing one provincial game and then playing one knockout game and then you're out. You're playing so many games of football now. It's actually ridiculous. So I can kind of understand why they're kind of doing it now. Maybe could have left it for maybe another month, possibly. I don't know. I know, well, maybe not a month exactly, because then it'd be Christmas, but nobody wants to see a draw at Christmas. But, maybe even mid-December, possibly. I think you could have still had enough time. But I do get what you're saying as well. If you were to make it while the league was on, maybe after round 2 or round 3 or something like that, and teams have seen where they're at, especially at the start of last year, say, Sligo could have been looking at the Connacht Championship potentially before last year, thinking we have a chance this year, and then after the first 3 rounds in the league last year, they could have been thinking, oh, right, okay, well, we've Mayo, we're out. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could be thinking from that perspective, but I think it is probably the right decision to make it around now, or maybe it could have been another week or two, just because there's so many games now. You have to do so much planning, and especially trying to get in probably when lads want to go on holidays and all that. There's going to be a lot of demand from county councils, county boards as well, to get their fixtures out when they want to as well. So I can kind of understand why they're doing them now, to be honest with you. But yeah, it could be forgotten in a couple of weeks' time. People might be told, oh yeah, we're playing this team in a few months because the league is coming up first. But yeah, I can understand why they're doing it now.
Yeah, I can see the arguments for both sides. I think from an entertainment perspective and from a publicity perspective and trying to get eyes on it, I think you're better off doing it as close to the championship as you can. But from a logistic standpoint and from an organizational standpoint and everything like that, I think you're better off giving people as much heads up. Like as Gavin said in the comments there, like for Roscommon and whatever Connacht team that might play against New York or London, to give them the best chance they can to get those flights sorted and everything like that. That's something as well to factor in. And especially in provinces that are, big provinces, like if Donegal are, drawn to play against Down, that's a big trip. Like if people it's an underrated trip. So I do think that gives people enough time to kind of put their things in motion so that we can get the best attendances that we possibly can. But that's the Ulster Championship. There's no doubt about it. The clash I'm most looking forward to is that preliminary round clash between Armagh and Tyrone, especially going off last season. What a game that could be once again. And the Munster Championship now, next up, obviously there was the controversy about, having Cork and Kerry on different sides of the draw. Well, they are on different sides of the draw, as it turns out. We can see there Cork are going to play Limerick in the quarter-final. Tipperary and Waterford against each other as well. And then Tip, Waterford, with the winner of that will play the winner of Limerick and Cork, while Clare and Kerry will face each other on the other side of the draw, with the winners meeting in the final. So Cork and Kerry are on the other side of the draw. That's kind of the headline there. Do you think they're going to meet in the Munster final, or is it far too early to call right now?
Well, Kerry's going to be in the Munster final anyway. I don't think that's up for debate, to be honest with you. I don't think there's any team in Munster that beats Kerry. Even Cork on their best day last year in that semi-final couldn't take down Kerry in the end. So I think Kerry will dispatch of Clare rather comfortably, to be honest with you. In terms of the other side, look, the other side, I think Tip and Waterford at the moment probably just aren't at the level, say, of a Limerick or a Cork. I could see Limerick giving Cork a fair go. Now, I know this year they played against them and Cork were a good mile better, to be honest with you, especially the way they were kicking 2-pointers that night. I think it was Brian O'Driscoll, I think, kicked about 2 or 3 of them that night. He was absolutely on fire. But Limerick last year would have taken, and it's kind of the thing we've been debating about with Clare. Limerick went down to the Tailteann Cup and they got to a Tailteann Cup final. And I mean, they went up against Kildare, a team that was very fancy to win it, and they put up a great battle against them, a great fight against them, and they won Division 4 as well. They'd have had a lot of confidence last year, and they'll have a lot of confidence going into the championship this year. So I think Limerick-Cork could potentially be a tough battle, to say the least. I do think, though, that whoever comes out of that game probably will be Cork, in my opinion, but even if Limerick come out of it, I see them beating Tip or Waterford as well. So I think we will get a Kerry-Cork final once again, which is good. Look, it's no disrespect to Clare, but other than, was it the one in 2024 when it was in Ennis, none of the Munster finals have been close the last couple of years between Kerry and Clare, especially this year's one. I mean, what did Kerry have after like 5 minutes a game? They had it won. David Clifford had them bet himself after 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? So look, it could be a hammering between Kerry and Cork as well. You never know, but I think this is probably the right move. And look, it might give Clare a chance now to go down to the Tailteann Cup themselves. And who's to say they couldn't win that? Like, they're fairly capable of potentially winning it. They have a lot of really good footballers in their team. I mean, they bet Kildare last year in the league. They bet Offaly last year in the league. And, if they went down to the Tailteann Cup against teams like that, then who knows what can happen. But I do expect it to be a Kerry-Cork final this year.
Yeah, no, I do as well. As we stand right now, I think Limerick are the most likely to kind of put a spanner in the works there. But I would be confident that it will be a Cork and Kerry final. Matthew says, as Father Jack would say, thank Christ, Limerick will be tough, but considering that game will be in the Park, there is no excuse. Yeah, I would agree. I think this is teed up for Cork now. They have to go take it. Gavin here, delighted. Let's go, lads. A Cork Kerry final. Thank the Lord. Well, we're not there yet, but I think that probably is what people would anticipate. Gavin also says, do you prefer it like this with coverage or just getting on with it like the radio before? Because I see people complaining how slow the draw is, but at the same time, I see people complaining about the lack of promotion. I think there's a fine balance to hit. Yeah. I think getting on with it a little bit quicker probably would have been one of the tips that I would have had, but it was far better than the radio. And like, it used to drive me mad, like the draws. And I get that there's a bit of prestige and everything like that, and that's the way that they used to do them, so that's the way that they were still doing them. But I know for a fact that if you want people to ignore a piece of news, you put it on early morning radio. And that's when the GA draws were taking place. So I was like, this makes no sense to me, because it's almost like you're trying to make people not see this or not hear it, because it wasn't even able to be seen because it was only on the radio. And I was like, why is this so locked off? Why did they not? In my head, the thing with the GA draws, the trick that they always missed, and TG Carr did it for the LGFA championship, and it worked a treat. Do the draw at the end of the show. Like, literally do the draw at the end of the show. Like, imagine the Sunday game highlights, and then Jackie Hurley goes, and when you come back from the break, we'll have the draw live for the next round of the championship. Nobody's going away. Nobody's going away. And I get that maybe it's, maybe they don't have the rights to do that and things like that, and there's contracts and everything like that. And I get that there might be issues there that we're not seeing. But from an outsider perspective, you are just thinking there are better ways to promote this. And this was 100% a step in the right direction. Putting it, better promotion. I actually really, really praise the people who handled this draw. I think they did a great job. And it's definitely a step in the right direction. Gavin says, imagine Down and the Tailteann and Clare in the same this year. It would have been insanity. I think Clare could win the Tailteann Cup as well. That's the sad truth as well about the Munster finals that Clare have got to, is a couple of the years that they got to them. Especially, I think, and I could be wrong, and maybe this is just a biased dub, but the year that Meath won it, I really think if Clare had been in it, I think they would have won it. Clare beat Cork that year to qualify for the Sam Maguire. They beat them in the Munster Semi Final. They still had, more or less their full squad. Gary Brennan was still playing with the club. I've no doubt he could have been dragged back if the prospect of winning the Tailteann Cup was on the line. And that was Colin Collins' last year. Yeah. And I was thinking, you know what? A Tailteann Cup would have gone down great. And that almost would be the perfect send-off for him. Peter said, yeah, should do them on Sunday game night show. I completely agree with you, Peter. But yeah, so that is the Munster Championship and Ulster Championship initial reaction. The tie I'm most looking forward to out of that, I would probably say the clash of Cork and Limerick, because obviously Limerick on the up and Cork have slipped on the occasion in the Munster Championship. Like, I will say, they've tended to put it up to Kerry, but over the last 6-7 years, they have dropped a few clangers in the Munster Championship, whether it's beating Kerry and then losing to Tipperary, or whether it's, coming unstuck against Clare in the one year that they were on the opposite side of the draw to Kerry. So there's no guarantees that they're going to get the job done, but I would say that they are the favourites. Now moving to the West, and we're going to go to Connacht. So this is the draw for the Connacht Football Championship of 2026. So yeah, as you can see there in the quarterfinals, Roscommon will be making the trip to the Big Apple to play against New York. Mayo will be playing against London, and Sligo will face against Leitrim. The winners of that latter game there between Sligo and Leitrim will face Galway in one semi-final, and the winners of London v Mayo and New York v Roscommon will face each other on the other side of the draw. So with the winners then facing each other in the final. So it's very likely that it will be Mayo and Roscommon on one side of the draw, and the winners of Sligo Leitrim against Galway on the other side of the draw. So looking at that Connacht Championship there, I mean, whenever you get a championship that only has 5 teams, it's very hard to have variation, or 7 teams. So apologies. But once you have a championship like that, it's difficult to get variations and everything like that. It does seem like Roscommon Mayo and Galway. It's between them every year, with Sligo sometimes popping up as an odd exception.
Yeah.
What are you expecting from the 26 version?
Well, I will say the one thing I'm really jealous of the Connacht Championship is that one team gets a trip to New York. I mean, whatever about going to London, they get to go to New York. I mean, I wish we had that, to be honest with you. I wouldn't mind a trip to New York to go and watch a Gaelic football match. But no, in all seriousness, yeah, look, I think without sounding like a broken record, I can't really see it being anything but a Galway and either Mayo Roscommon final, to be honest with you. I don't see Mayo having too many issues with London over in London, and realistically, Roscommon could probably put out their second team and still beat New York, to be honest with you. Like, having seen New York against us last year, look, they tried their best and everything like that, but it's just unfortunate for them. They don't have the quality. They don't, unfortunately, for them. So I don't see them beating a Roscommon team anytime soon, especially with Roscommon. They have been a good team over the last couple of years. Okay, they slipped a bit last year, but I still think they should be able to be too good for them. And it's the sort of same with Leitrim. I do feel for them as well. I just feel like no matter who they get, they're going to struggle. I mean, they lost to New York a couple of years ago, so it kind of showed where their levels were at in this moment in time. And really, even if they were to, I would probably call it a shock and get over the line against Sligo, you're then going up against Galway. You know, a team that have aspirations of winning an All-Ireland and are going for a fifth Connacht title in a row. So, like, look, I think Sligo could potentially put up a fight. They should have bet them a couple of years ago, only for that last-minute goal, which broke their hearts. But I don't see... I think Galway this year will be out for retribution after the way 2025 went, you know, especially when you look at the way they performed against Dublin in the opening round, the way they performed against Meath and Croke Park. They played well against Down, but they weren't excellent against them. You know, they showed a lot of defensive frailties against them in a high-scoring game. So I think Galway this year will be absolutely out for retribution. I still think they're the strongest side in the Connacht Championship. It'll be interesting to see how Andy Moran gets on with Mayo this year and whether he can bring the cup back to them this year. But yeah, I can see it being another Mayo-Galway final, to be honest with you. Look, Roscommon will have no issue in New York. Mayo will have no issue in London. And I think Galway beats either one of Sligo or Leitrim. So, and it is unfortunate, like you mentioned, there's not... Like, there's 7 teams in it, but it almost feels a bit too predictable kind of every year about who's going to be in it anyways, or it's always realistically only ever going to be 3 teams in it to a degree, you know, bar obviously Sligo coming in every once in a blue moon. So yeah, look, I think it'll be another Galway Mayo final, and I don't see anyone stopping Galway from doing 5 in a row.
I do think that you have to put Galway as the front runners, given the level that they've been at over the last few years. But I mean, we're a long way away as well. Like, players could drop out. Like, Shane Walsh could announce that he's not playing this year. Like, Paul Conroy could retire. Like, there's a whole load of things that could happen. And that's probably the little bit of a negative between having it now at the draw, because it is quite literally impossible to predict what is going to happen down the line. But we have a couple of brave predictions in here. A2 saying another Galway Mayo final, another Mayo bottle job in a final coming our way. So definitely not mincing his words there. Peter says, Seamus, the question on TG4's coverage, could the lads not have gone into the studio or even the back of the stand in Oma last Sunday? Mad conditions for the OBs. Honestly, unless you're there, like, it's really, really difficult to call. I remember the worst conditions I'd ever seen for an OB was Glen against Kilmacud Crokes in the All-Ireland Club Semi Final, and you could not see a thing. You could not see anything. And for anyone that doesn't speak Irish, basically GABO was being we did hashtag GAKO was put up by the team that day. I wasn't working with them at that time, but yeah, GAKO Oscailga, that translates to like fog. So Kios are literally instead of GABO, because it was so like just impossible to see anything. I don't know how they like Brian Tyres, absolute gentleman, Brian Tyres. The commentator for TG Car, one of the best commentators in the game, in my opinion. And I got chatting to him and I asked him about that game, and I was like, did you like, that must have been an absolute nightmare to commentate. Like, me and you both done commentary for Clubber and Dubs TV and everything like that. And like, even sometimes when it's perfect conditions, it's hard to see the numbers on some lads' backs, especially in hurling, if there's no like
very hard
thing that stands out about them.
Sometimes
fog like that. And he said this to me. Not only could I not see the number on their back, I couldn't see the human being before they got the ball. People were just appearing out of the fog. And then all of a sudden, oh, there's another person there. Then all of a sudden have to gather who that person is. So Gavin here's about the Connacht Championship. What about Sligo nearly beating Galway in 2024? Do you think the same could happen? I like Sligo as managers with the under-20s. Yeah, there's no question. Sligo nearly took out Galway. So there's something that you cannot write off. That Rob Finnerty goal saved Galway's bacon that day. So there's no question about it. They need to... And the reality is that Sligo have so much talent coming through from that under-20s team, led by the likes of Canis Mulligan and people like that. So you're looking at it thinking, when is this talent going to come through? Surely it's going to come through. But we've seen examples, unfortunately, as a bit of a precedent. We've seen examples like Kildare, and I know that they won the Tailteann Cup, but Kildare won the All-Ireland Under-20 Championship in 2018. And lots of people in Leinster were sitting around going, okay, when are Kildare going to beat Dublin and everything like that? And in the time where people, but in the time when people were expecting them to have made massive strides, they're actually going rapidly backwards under Glenn Ryan. So, and they've made a little bit of an arresting of that tide now under Brian Flanagan winning the Tailteann Cup, and they've turned it around a little bit, but it doesn't guarantee success. You have to get these players into the team in the correct manner. What that correct manner is, I don't know, but I'm saying it's not a slam dunk for success. Gavin says, I think Galway's underage is terrible compared to Mayo, Roscommons as well. Galway should have been knocked out by Derry last year as well. Gavin also said they really wanted Leitrim in the semi-final for Roscommon, but look, we haven't bet Mayo in the hide since 2001, but we're great in McHale with wins in 19 and 23, so maybe it's better that we're away to Mayo. Very, very interesting comments in there, Gavin. There's no question about it. Roscommon away in Connacht are always a danger for whoever they come up against. I think one of Roscommon and Mayo will make the Connacht final, and I think they'll meet Galway there. That's what I would predict. I don't think I'll win any awards for that prediction, but that's what I am going with. And the tie I'm most looking forward to, I think obviously I think it's going to be Mayo Roscommon in that semi-final. So that's the tie I'm most looking forward to. And finally, Liam, the one that directly concerns us, the Leinster Championship. So we have it here. You can see the preliminary round. Carlow against Wicklow, Westmeath against Longford, and Offaly against Laois. I wonder which one you're looking forward to. The winners of that, if you beat Laois, you will go on and play against Kildare. So a rematch, of course, of the Division 3 final from last year. Meath will play the winners of Westmeath and Longford. Louth, the reigning Leinster champions, will play Wexford, while Dublin will play the winners of Carlow and Wicklow. And then you've got there on the semi-final stage, you're looking at, it will be Meath or Westmeath or Longford in one side of that semi-final playing against Kildare, Offaly or Laois. And then on the other side, Louth, Wexford against either Dublin, Carlow or Wicklow. So you've got some heavy hitters on either side of that draw. You've got Dublin and Louth, the last two Leinster champions, going up against Meath and Kildare potentially, or Offaly or Laois or Westmeath or Longford on the other side. Some big hitters, some potential huge Leinster finals coming there.
Yeah, it's an interesting draw. All border rivalries in the opening round, which is interesting to see. But yeah, Offaly Kildare, new big rivalry in Leinster. Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, look, we still have regrets about the way we went out to Kildare last year in the Tailteann Cup. We ran them very, very close. It was a shame about going out in the quarterfinals last year, because we showed we were able to compete with a Kildare, and we showed beating them twice last year that, had we got past Kildare, we could have potentially gone on and won the Tailteann Cup. But look, I'm actually kind of glad the way the draw has gone. I mean, look, who doesn't love playing against Laois? I mean, I watched that come back and bite me in the arse now after saying that. But, I think that's at home as well in O'Connor Park. I believe the last time we played them in the Leinster Championship was in O'Moore Park in 2024. So it'd be nice to get a home crowd in for a local derby. And then, yeah, look, I'm delighted we've got Kildare again. I just want us to try and go and beat them in the Championship, try and prove a point against them as well. I think we're fully capable, despite the fact that obviously we've learned today that Cillian Burke is going to be going over to Australia next year, which is a big loss for Offaly. It's a big loss for Tullamore football as well, but at the same time, I also can't blame the chap either. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so the best of luck to him there. But yeah, in the rest of the Championship, I think think Carlo and Wicklow are probably wondering what the fuck have we done to deserve getting Dublin in a quarter-final. but yeah, when you look
Dublin team that need that Leinster crown back.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be a pissed off Dublin team, like, with Ger Brennan in there. But yeah, no, I think when you look at the potential games you have, though, I mean, I think a Westmeath match. I mean, we remember the drama was in 2015 when Westmeath staged that comeback to reach the Leinster final. Who doesn't love a good Westmeath Mead? Jesus Christ, Westmeath Mead game. Kildare Offaly or Kildare Laois, but if I'm going to be hopeful, Kildare Offaly could be a cracking encounter as well. And yeah, Dublin, if you're looking at it from a realistic standpoint, a Dublin Louth semi-final, I think, is mouth-watering, to be honest with you. And especially if it is in a neutral ground, you probably would throw that in probably Kildare. You'd probably say, if from a neutral perspective, you'd probably throw it in St. Conleth's Park. So yeah, I think we have some potentially really, really good games in the Leinster Championship to come. I mean, I would love for us to be in a Leinster final this year. I still don't know if I'd want to be playing Yee in Croke Park, especially with Yee wanting to win it back this year, and I do rate Ger Brennan as a manager as well. But I think Leinster is open this year, and I think there's a great opportunity for counties to reach a Leinster final this year. So yeah, look, I think it's a great draw. I think there's some interesting games in there, and yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the first game for us against Laois, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Louth get on defending the title, how Westmeath respond this year after putting in good performances last year, but just not getting over the line in their major games. Can Meath respond this year after reaching an All-Ireland semi-final? Can Kildare kick on from the Tailteann Cup? There's a lot of storylines to it this year, so it should make for a cracking Leinster Championship.
Yeah, definitely should. There's no question. This is the most I've looked forward to the Leinster Championship, I would say, since 2011. Yeah. Because you think about that, and another thing that people often forget is it wasn't just the fact that Meath beat Dublin the year before, or that Louth, let's be honest, won the Leinster Championship in 2010 with Joe Sheridan obviously threw the ball into the net. But also back then, Kildare were fantastic. Kildare were genuine All-Ireland contenders. They'd lost the All-Ireland semi-final by a whisker to Down the year previous. And Wexford were really good at that time as well. Wexford had like the likes of Kieran Ling, PJ Banville, Redmond Barry, Matty Ford, like a really, really good team. And Wexford should have beat Dublin in 2011, which is something that a lot of people forget. Anthony Masterson came out, made a mistake. Dublin got a goal out of nowhere, and that turned the game on its head, and they went on to win, but Dublin did not deserve to win that game. So Leinster was really, really close in 2011, and I think we're starting gradually to move back towards then. You've got Offaly and Kildare on the rise. You've got Westmeath, who are still solid. You've got Louth, who are the Leinster champions now. You've got Meath, who are absolutely on the rise. And Dublin, to be honest, wobbling a little bit. We're going to see now with Ger Brennan coming in if he can steady the ship. But the reality is that if you've been paying attention, what we're noticing is that the under-20s and everything like that, it's a bit of foreshadowing. And the reality is Dublin weren't winning at under-20 like we were in the past. And that has started now to seep through into the senior team. With the retirements of some legends like Brian Fenton, like John Small, like Paul Mannion stepping away, we haven't seen the players take their place the way that previous years had. Like when you had people like Brian Howard coming in to like supplement that 5-6 in a row winning team. We don't have those same caliber coming in this time, but it will be really, really, really interesting. A2 completely disagrees with my take on Leinster in 2011 interest. He says overrating Leinster teams big time from that era. Down were a poor side. I strongly disagree with that. Who Kildare couldn't beat. No one but Dublin laid a glove on the All-Ireland series for close to a decade. I think after that, after 2011, I think a lot of the teams had peaked. I think that's a key thing to talk about, because what happened with Wexford was 2 years later, most of the players that I mentioned, 3 years later, Matty Ford was gone, Kieran Ling was gone, Red Barry was gone. Kildare as well, Kieran McGeeney left. They didn't recapture the magic after he left. So that's what made the Leinster Championship so shit for a decade, was because at the same time that Dublin went like this to the moon, everyone else also kind of dropped off the boil. Yeah. But the reality is there's no question. The Leinster Championship was really, really good and competitive, and a lot of good teams in it in 2010 and 2011. And on top of that, you had that Down team was a very, very good team. That Down team beat the All-Ireland champions Tyrone, who went on to be the All-Ireland champions Tyrone, in 2008 in the Ulster Championship. Beat Kerry in that year's All-Ireland quarter-final. Kerry, who were the reigning All-Ireland champions, had the likes of Marty Clark, Benny Coulter, Ambrose Rogers, Kevin McKernan. That was a good Down team, and they came within a point of winning the All-Ireland. But we will carry on now. So that's all of the draws looked at. Very, very interesting. Big shout out to everybody involved, obviously, in moving it to the format that we've used for it this year. I thought it was a good bit more entertaining. We like to see that moving forward. Peter has a straightforward question. Sure, Kildare in 2010 and 2011 could/should have won the All-Ireland. I think there were a lot of sliding doors moments for that Kildare team. I think there was a lot of sliding doors. That Rob Kelly shot off the crossbar in 2010. You're talking about Kevin Cassidy's winning point for Donegal in the 2011 All-Ireland quarter-final. There were a lot of sliding doors moments. Even, I'll say this as a dub, that absolute bullshit free that Dublin got at the end of that Leinster Semi Final in 2011, which was never free. And Peter, I'm sure you'll agree with me.
I still don't know how that was done.
Yeah, that was crazy. And even at the time, you felt a little bit like walking out of the ground that day, even though it was 10, you still felt a little bit like, whoa. I can't believe you got given that.
Looking around going, wait, I have a free shot here.
yeah, literally just gave Bernard Brogan a 13-yard free to win a Leinster semi-final. But we're going to move on from that. The championship draw reaction has been complete. We are now going to move into the club championship games that are on the agenda for this weekend. And we're going to go chronologically through them all, starting with Saturday's games, of which there are 3 senior games from across all 4 codes. And then there is a good bit more from the Sunday. And if you want to see intermediate and junior results as well, keep your eyes peeled for the Cúilín Media and Gaelic Statsman Instagram pages across the weekend, as always. So, starting off with Saturday's games, Liam, we have the All-Ireland Camogie semi-finals and we have the Ulster Senior Hurling Championship finals. So, starting off with one where I've got a bit of skin in the game here. The team that I've picked to win the All-Ireland, Dicksboro, are going up against Athenry at 1 p.m. on Saturday in Kinnegad. Please get this done, girls. I really need a prediction to come true here. But no, in all seriousness, Athenry have been absolutely stellar this season, obviously knocking out Sarsfields, who have been, the dominant ever-presence in Camogie. But now they are out. Athenry have thrown them out, and now they face Dicksboro, the last team apart from Sarsfields to win the All-Ireland.
Yeah, I think it's Dicksboro's to win, to be honest with you. Look, Athenry, very good team, and the way that they won the Galway title was very, very impressive. But I'll keep alluding to it, even though Burr realistically were nowhere near the level of Dicksboro. Seeing them play that day in Burr, I was extremely, extremely impressed with how they play Camogie, to be honest with you. The way they set up, the way every player just knew their role, the way they took their opportunities, especially at this time of the year as well, when it's a wet ball and it's a hard ground, soft ground actually. And, I was just really impressed with the spine of their team as well. I mean, look, everybody knows the talents that they have in their team, the likes of Aoife Prendergast, who I rate very, very highly. But it was the Cueva Dowlings, it was the Ciara Phelans, it was the Rachel Dowlings, it was the Amy Cliffords. It was these types of players. Orla Henrik, who I believe got 2-3 or 2-4 today against Burr. It's those players that are stepping up for them, and they have big, big parts to play in every single game. And yeah, the way they got over the Leinster final as well, winning it by a point, will give them a real confidence boost as well, because winning the Leinster Championship is not simple whatsoever. And they were going up against a team that knocked out was the St. Vincent's in the semi-final as well, who we had tipped to do very good things in Leinster as well. So I think, look, Athenry are a very good side. They have some very, very good players in their team as well. And the way they won the Galway Championship was super, super impressive. And I certainly didn't see it coming. I knew that they'd put up a fight, given how they had the previous few years, but winning it against that Sarsfields, just I didn't see it coming at all, to be honest with you. But unfortunately for them, I think this is where the road ends. I think Dicksboro, for me, I think they should go on and win the All-Ireland now. It won't be simple. It absolutely won't be. And listen, Athenry would absolutely not want their journey to end this year, especially after taking down arguably the best side in Ireland. But I just think Dicksboro, the way they play, and some of the players that they have, and like you mentioned there, they have a history of this as well. So I think they'll be able to get themselves over the line in the end by maybe 5 or 6 points in the semi-final, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Dicksboro can get over the line because of the prediction. I want at least one All-Ireland prediction to come through. Ballygunner are still in the hurling. So that's one that I'm kind of hoping. And we'll come to Ballygunner later. Of course, they're in a Munster hurling final themselves. Peter says, is that game on Cúilín's club pitch? It is indeed, as it is listed down here. But and if Matthew says it, then it's true. So don't ask twice about it. But on top of that, Athenry, Dicksboro, I'm going to go for a Dicksboro win. And genuinely because of how impressed I was with them in that Leinster final against Éire de Balla. Éire de Balla had been really, really impressive. The way that they beat Vincent's, they were not to be taken lightly at all. And on top of that, Dicksboro were behind for the majority of that game against Éire. Like, I watched it back. They were constantly behind, and they just kept at it. Asha McCarty for Prendergast, constantly popping up with key scores. Lucinda Gahan as well led from the front. And they just timed it and got ahead with that point from Phelan from wing back, and they just timed their sprint. It was like, someone who's like an Olympic sprinter type who just knows when to make the burst.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more experienced, and I do think that, like, while Athenry knew that they had an idea of how to beat Sarsfields, they played them before. They nearly beat them, as you said, when we were reacting to that game. They'd come close before. This is now completely new territory, whereas for Dicksboro, it's not. Dicksboro have been here before, and they've been here very, very recently. And I think in games like this, when it's going to be as tight as it will be, I'm going to shade this to Dicksboro, that they get over the line, even though Athenry have been fantastic. Peter says, going for Athenry by 2 after extra time. Winter conditions can be a definitive grain of rice. I will agree. And I think if it gets into a battling type of game, I'm going to go with Dicksboro to shade that one as well. And who will they play in the final? Well, that's also being decided on Saturday at 2 p.m. This one taking place in Ashbourne. Loughgiel Shamrocks, the Antrim and Ulster champions, going up against St. Finbarr, the Cork and Munster champions. Saturday, 2 p.m. in Ashbourne. Liam, what do you make of this one?
Yeah, I think, look, first of all, it was brilliant for St. Finbarr's to win the championship as well in a cracking game against De La Salle. And especially like the way De La Salle got to the final, I actually thought that they might have been the team to potentially win it, to be honest with you. But you got to give great credit to St. Finbarr's, the way that they got over the line in the end, winning by 2 points. And it's the funny thing, winning a first provincial title can kind of do something to you. You know, we've seen it over the last number of years. We saw it with Cúilín, obviously, last year, winning a first provincial title, getting to the All-Ireland final. We did it ourselves in 2013, won a provincial title and got to an All-Ireland final as well. You know, it just does something to you. St. Thomas's did the same thing in hurling as well. So I just have a funny feeling. Look, Loughgiel Shamrocks are a very strong team, and they've been the dominant team. I think it goes without question. There's a reason why I think we all predicted them to win the Ulster Championship at the start of the back in September when we did the predictions. But I just think at the moment St. Finbarr's are in a really, really good place. And I think they'll be the ones to try and get over the line this weekend. I think it'll be a tough battle between the two of them. I could see this game going to extra time. I think Loughgiel Shamrocks could actually push them, to be honest with you. But I just think for St. Finbarr's, when you've got McCartan in there, when you've got Wall in there, and you've got Cahalane in there, I think they'll just be able to get themselves a ticket into the final. I don't see them taking down Dicksboro in the final, if I'm being honest with you. I think Dicksboro are the strongest side left in the competition. But I think it'll be Finbarr's to get themselves over the line. I think McCartan's going to get them over the line in this one. Potentially could be a match winner in this one.
I'm going to agree with you. And Peter does as well. Bars by 3 after extra time. So Peter going for 2 extra time semi-finals. I think Loughgiel have struggled, to be honest, in the last couple of years that they've got to All-Ireland semi-finals.
Yeah.
I don't think it helps them at the end of the day when they absolutely waltz through Ulster the way that they have done in previous years. Yeah, it doesn't help them. And now they're running into a brick wall here in Finbarr's that have like really, really battled their way out of the Munster Championship. You think about the teams that they've gone through, the likes of Turles Sarsfields, the likes of, in the Cork final and everything.
Newcastle West.
Apologies. But there's no question about it. St Finbarrs have paid in full to get here, and I really believe that they're not going to be denied. When you look at McCartan up front, she's a superb player. You look at the Callahan sisters, Wigginton Barrett as well that they have in there. They have a lot of talent, and I'm going to shade this one to St Finbarrs. I think it will be an All-Ireland Camogie final of St Finbarrs of Cork against Dicksboro of Kilkenny, and I picked Dicksboro from the beginning of the year to win it, so I'm going to go with it, that they shade the final. But only time will tell. The final senior game that takes place on the Saturday is at 6 p.m. in the Athletic Grounds. It is the Ulster Senior Hurling Championship Final. Slaughtneil of Derry going up against St John's of Antrim at 6 p.m. in the Athletic Grounds, as I was saying. The Ulster Senior Hurling Final aim of 2025, what are you expecting from this one?
I think it's brilliant that St John's are in the final, first of all. You know, it's a great achievement for them to be here, especially after ending such a long famine in the Antrim Championship as well. But I'm just very impressed with Slaughtneil. I think where did I rank them? I think I ranked them fourth when we did the rankings a couple of weeks ago. Or it could have been third. No, I think it was fourth. It was fourth. But I think they are a very, very strong team, and I think they have a lot of really talented hurlers, and especially the way that they managed to win the Ulster Championship last year. And I mean, they must still be absolutely kicking themselves how they didn't get into the All-Ireland final last year with that last-minute miss against Sarsfields and Kildare. To be honest with you, like, they must be still sickened to this day about how they lost that game out by a point. But yeah, they've been very impressive this year. I mean, they won the Derry Championship rather comfortably, if we're being honest. Was it 13 in a row now, I think it is, in Derry, which is still a fantastic achievement, but it just shows how dominant they have been over the last couple of years there. And to get over Portferry in the semi-final as well was very, very good going as well. It was a cracking game of hurling. It was a shame that it wasn't like on TG Cahir or anything like that. I would have loved to have seen it. It was only a 5-point game in the end, and it seemed like it was a really, really close game as well. But I just think Slaughtneil, with the players that they have, the Shea Cassidys, the Cormac O'Dohertys, the McGuigans, the Brendan Rodgers, who I rate very, very highly as a dual player as well. I just think they should have enough to get over the line this weekend. They have the more experience. They are the defending champions. And especially going up now in an All-Ireland semi-final against Loughgiel, there is every potential opportunity here for Slaughtneil to take full advantage here and get themselves to Croke Park next month. And look, St. John's, like I mentioned, momentum can take you very, very far. Ending a famine, you know, you just never know. And the club championship has pulled off so many surprises over the last couple of years. And like, if this was Rory Og, Cushendall, or if it was, obviously I remember Loughgiel Shamrocks back in the day, but if this was maybe a Rory O Cushendall, we'd be sitting there going, oh, they could beat them this weekend. So we have to give St. John's their respect. They absolutely have a massive chance of winning this weekend. And credit to them, like, they were very impressive in their semi-final win over Setanta as well, especially going, I think it was away from home, was it? Or it was in Owenbeck, wasn't it? I think it was. So, look, I think it's going to be a very interesting battle. You've Conor Johnston playing for them, who's a very, very good hurler as well for Antrim as well. You've Oisin McManus, Shea Shannon as well. You've Donald Carson, corner forward, who got a goal the last day as well. So I think it'll be an interesting battle. I think it'll go right down to the wire, but I think Slaughtneil will just about have enough in the end. I'm going to go Slaughtneil by 4 points.
I'm going to agree with you, and so does Peter. He says Johns are some story this year. Slaughtneil are just further on down the road. Slaughtneil by 6. Again, like, I go back to that, you know, having the experience of being at this stage. I mean, the way that Slaughtneil got past Portaferry last year in that Ulster final, they withstood the kitchen sink that Portaferry threw at them. And I do believe, look, you're sleeping a little bit on what St. John's have done. You know, beating Loughgiel Shamrocks, beating Rory O Cushendall. If Rory O Cushendall were here, we'd be talking about the fact that Rory O also had the experience of playing in the Ulster Championship. And St. John's have closed that famine, and we've seen over the club championship over previous years that sometimes when you get out and you get on a roll, you can be difficult to stop. I think if there's an underdog bet of the weekend, I think I'd be tempted to put it on this one. But I am going to go Slaughtneil, but cheeky bet, maybe St. John's. Cheeky bet. Like, if I'm putting my life on it, I'm going to go Slaughtneil. But if I'm putting like a fiver down, I'm going St. John's. But it would be really, really interesting to see.
Anyone betting now in the comment section there?
For anyone betting, yeah, and you can send all the hate to me, Liam White.
I don't need one. I've Galway people against me. I don't need St. John's people.
But yeah, that's the action from the Saturday covered. We're going to move now to Sunday's action, and we're going to stick with the hurling code, and we're going to move on to this one. And what a game we have on our hands here. The Munster Senior Hurling Championship Final of 2025. Ballygunner going up against Éire Og Innis. Sunday, 3 p.m. in Semple Stadium. What a Munster final we have on our hands here, Liam.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to see Éire Og in a Munster final, to be honest with you. And look, I'll be honest, I thought their game against Loughmore Castleiney wasn't the best game in the world, but it still provided its fair share of drama, and both teams absolutely going at it. You had the two previous hurler of the years, which I feel bad for John McGrath. I don't think he deserved to be on the losing side the last day, to be fair to him. But listen, it was a great credit to Éire Og, the way they used their fitness in extra time and got themselves a comfortable enough victory in the end, to be honest with you. But yeah, they showed a lot of heart and determination to even get themselves to extra time the last day. Look, they're going into this final in a way with absolutely nothing to lose. You know, Ballygunner last year, we were rating them very highly to go and win the Munster Championship, potentially go on to win the All-Ireland. And then they just capitulated against Sarsfields in the Munster final. And there's every potential chance that could happen again. We could be sleeping on Éire Og potentially again this year. But at the same time, Ballygunner did look very, very impressive against Sarsfields the last day. They had the game essentially put to bed after 10 minutes. You know, they absolutely destroyed them in the opening 5-10 minutes. And it's very grueling to go away to the Limerick champions and the Piercing and beat them by 3 points, even though, look, I still think the Piercing just missed a load of opportunities that day, but it's still very impressive to go to the Limerick champions and take them down by 3 points. So, look, if you're going to stop a Ballygunner, you need to outwork them like we saw last year. You need to outthink them. You need to run at them, have a go at them. You know, you need Pádraig Mahoney to miss a couple of frees. You need Desi Hutchinson to be quiet. You need Kevin Mahoney to be quiet as well. Whether that's going to happen, I don't know, because they are just such very talented hurlers, and it'd be interesting to see who they actually put on them. But at the same time, who do Ballygunner put on Shane O'Donnell? Who do they put on David Reedy? Do you know, it has the makings of a very good game over in Semple Stadium as well. So I'm obviously, as we've seen over the last while, I'm not the biggest supporter of Ballygunner, but I just think they were very, very impressive the last day in their semi-final over Sarsfields, and they'll be absolutely gunning to win the All-Ireland this year. There's no question about that. You know, I'd say it does hurt them that they haven't won it since 2022, or that they haven't pushed on. You know, the St. Thomas defeat and the defeat last year to Sarsfields would have been the ones that sting the most. So I'm going to go with Ballygunner to win. I'm going to go with them to win maybe by 5 points in the end. Look, this could go this could be a game that goes one of two ways. It could be an Éire Og last minute winner by a point, or it could be a Ballygunner humdinger and they win by 15 points. But I'm gonna be respectful here, and I'm gonna say it'll be a 5 point win for Ballygunner.
Yeah. Look, there's no point beating around the bush. I've said that Ballygunner will win the All-Ireland. So obviously I think that they're going to win this game. But what I will say is that Ballygunner in the last decade, for the players that they've had, they have underachieved in terms of winning All-Irelands. Winning one, I think if they don't get another one, I think they will look back at this period and think, okay, yeah, we got one, but we should have got more. Yeah. And I truly believe that that's kind of how they feel right now in this moment, hence why they're still so motivated to go and collect more silverware. But let's look at the facts. In that time period where they have underachieved, when has been the period where they have fallen most often? It's been the next two games that they have coming up, the Munster Final and the All-Ireland Semi-Final if they get through this one. This has been where they've fallen. And in very recent times, they fell to Sarsfields at the Munster Final stage last year in a game where not many people expected them to go out. And then the year before, they lost to St. Thomas's in the All-Ireland Semi-Final in a game where nobody really expected them to lose that one either. So nobody's expecting Ballygunner to lose this one, but yet you look across at Éire Og Innis and they have Shane O'Donnell, they've David Reedy, they've got some absolutely fantastic players, and yet nobody seems to be tipping them to win Munster, and they're in a really, really good place. I've tipped Ballygunner, as I said, from the get-go, from the beginning. I've tipped them to win the All-Ireland because I think bringing in Jason Ryan, I think he's a very, very good manager, very good man manager. I think he'll get the best out of this Ballygunner team. And I think that kind of urge to make the most out of what you have right now, especially given how much last year's defeat would have hurt them. I think they're dangerous, and I think they're going to win the All-Ireland. But now that Ballyhale are, looking good in Leinster, I'm a little bit nervous about that potential semi-final matchup, but I'm going to stick with my pick for now. And yeah, I'm going to tip it to them. But I think if they're going to fall, it's going to be in the next 2 games. Yeah. If they're not going to win the All-Ireland, they're going to lose to either Éire or they're going to lose to, in my opinion, Loughgiel Shamrocks is who I think is going to come out of Leinster. But we'll see what happens either way. Peter says Ballygunner demo job by 8 in shite weather as well. We'll see. Only time will tell. But that is the Munster Senior Hurling Championship final. We're giving that a preview as well. Moving on then to the All-Ireland LGFA semi-finals. Both of them take place across this weekend. And I'm just going to a little bit of a personal point here. And
feel free.
Because I've just noticed in it here. Kilkerrin Clonberne against Comeragh Rangers on the Sunday at 2 p.m. in Kilkerrin. Kilmacud Crokes against St. Ergnat on Sunday at 2 p.m. in Stillorgan. So for anyone who doesn't know, Stillorgan is Kilmacud Crokes' pitches. These are the All-Ireland semi-finals. Kilmacud Crokes and Kilkerrin Clonberne are overwhelming favourites for the clashes that they have respectively. What on earth are the games being played in their home patch for? If they should be playing them in a home patch, it should be for Ergnat and for Comeragh Rangers, not the 2 teams that have been in the All-Ireland final last year.
That's outrageous. I'm sorry. You cannot have home advantage.
An All-Ireland semi-final and you've home advantage. You're taking the piss.
That's outrageous, to be honest with you. And like you mentioned, like they're overwhelming, without being too much of a spoiler alert, I think those 2 teams will win these games, but you're just adding fuel to the fire, giving them both home advantage. That's not fair to Comeragh Rangers or to saying, what the hell?
But it even makes less sense when you consider that Dublin has 92 clubs, 92 club pitches, and then you throw on top of that O'Toole Park, Parnell Park, DCU grounds, UCD grounds. Why does it have to be played in Kilmacud's home pitch?
It makes no sense.
Absolutely baffling. Just A2 says it may as well just give it to them. Literally.
Yeah.
What is the ref going to be from Kilmacud as well? Or is the ref going to be from Kilkerrin Clonberne as well? That literally makes no sense. And I'd say to the players as well, I'd say they're surprised that
it probably doesn't help them either to a degree.
But St. Ergnat's as well, I do mean this with all greatest respect. Comeragh Rangers have, a lot of senior inter-county players, like the likes of Emma Murray and fantastic players. Antrim, the Ergnats are the Antrim champions, and they have been fantastic. Make no mistake about it. And I hate to sound in any way disrespectful, but they are having a massive season, considering that Antrim play in the junior championship, and the fact that they've beaten Clonberne, who have the likes of Clodagh McCambridge, and they're stacked with Armagh senior intercounty players, is an incredible achievement. And now they win Ulster, and they're just getting shafted, getting sent down to Kilmacud for an All-Ireland semi-final against the Kilmacud side, who, by the way, since winning the Dublin final, they have beaten the 7 bells of shit out of everyone that they've played. So why is the game in their home venue? I don't understand it.
No, it makes no sense. You can't. I don't understand the logic of playing an All-Ireland semi-final. So what if well, not even if, but when Kilkerrin and Kilmacud win these 2 games, are they going to have a coin toss to see who gets home advantage for the All-Ireland final?
No, they play that one in Croke Park.
Imagine though.
But again, on top of that, it was embarrassingly recent that the All-Ireland LGFA finals for club championship weren't played in Croke Park. Thank God that they've made that change and given the players the respect that they deserve there. But I don't understand the fixtures here. Surely there was a ground that we could play these semi-finals in that is more neutral. Yeah. Even if you want to play them in Dublin, okay, I still don't agree that they should be in Dublin, because that gives a massive advantage to Kilmacud fans getting to the game versus Ergnats, who would have to make a massive journey. I'd be looking at, can you play it somewhere in Louth? Can you play it somewhere slightly in the middle? Yeah, slightly in the middle between the two counties, somewhere that's a motorway exit, everything like that. Why does it have to literally be in the favourites' home pitch? Same thing as well. Comeragh, like, that's a long journey for Comeragh Rangers to make, to go literally into Kilkerrin Clonberne's pitch and to go into the belly of the beast, like to go in against, just to put it into context for anybody who isn't, up to date with how many in a row Kilkerrin have won. Kilkerrin have won 4 All-Ireland club championships in a row. And they've been given home advantage for the All-Ireland Semi Final. Maybe there's a system in place. Maybe I'm completely ignorant. Maybe there's something in place that means that Kilkerrin have done something to get home advantage. But why is home advantage a thing in the semi-finals? It shouldn't be.
And they scored their goal tally in their provincial final was the same amount of points that they conceded. Just for context as well, they got three goals in their Connacht Final, and their opponents got 9 points. 321 to 9 points. They've beaten the 7 shades of shit out of everyone in Connacht as well. So you're basically feeding them to the beast, to be honest with you. It's like, without sounding disrespectful to the poor Irish teams tonight, but it'd be like sending Shelburne to the new camp. Or sending
for
them
a neutral semi-final.
Neutral semi-final. I'm sorry, but I don't know. Yeah, it's something that doesn't say. Look, I think Kilmacud and Connor will win those games regardless of where you do play them, but it's not fair to Comeragh or St. Arnold's to make them travel, especially from Antrim down to that's a journey and a half, and it's on I don't know. That's actually baffling, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with the decision behind it. In terms of the games, look, I do think Kilkerrin and Kilmacud will win. I think if there's an upset to be had there, I think maybe Comeragh get closer to Kilkerrin than we think. I think Comeragh have some fantastic inter-county players, led obviously by the likes of Emma Murray. But I just think, having seen how Kilkerrin have just dismantled everybody in their path, I don't see, you look at the players they have, they literally have Nicola Ward, Olivia Divley, Louise Ward, they're stacked in every line. There's no stopping them as far as I'm concerned. I think they're going to win the All-Ireland as well. But I think Kilmacud will come closer to them than anybody else has. We'll move on now. We'll go back into Connacht again. This time we have the Connacht Senior Football Championship Final. And Gavin O'Reilly, if you're still with us, I'd love to get your take on this game here. Cúilín against St. Bridget's, the Connacht Football Championship Final of 2025. The champions of Galway, Cúilín, against the champions of Roscommon, St. Bridget's. Liam, take it away. This one's going to be unreal.
Yeah, I wish it was Pádraig Pearse's. Fuck you, Aaron. But yeah, interesting that it's in Dr. Hyde Park as well. Home advantage for them, which is very, very interesting. But yeah, I think this was the final that once the county finals were all played, this was the one that we all kind of expected to occur. And I think it's 2 very evenly matched teams. I think we could be in for a cracker, to be honest with you. And it wouldn't be a surprise to see either one of these teams winning, to be honest with you. Look, St. Bridget's obviously have great history in the All-Ireland series and the Connacht series as well. But Cúilín are not to be written off as well. Look, the way they won the Galway championship was super, super impressive. And they're coming into this weekend. They're definitely going to be full of confidence anyways. There's no question about that. But St. Bridget's, the way they came through the Connacht Final, I'm still very, very impressed with how they did that. I feel like I want to say St. Bridget's are going to win it just simply because they knocked out Pádraig Pearse's, and I'm still very bitter about that. But and I really shouldn't be, because it's not really a fixture I should be caring about at all. But I just think the way that they beat Ballina, and look, we know the Mayo clubs haven't been doing particularly well in Connacht over the last couple of years, to be fair. But Ballina were fairly average against St. Bridget's, and they just took them to the absolute cleaners. Even the scoreline itself, conceding the 3 goals, doesn't reflect the game, in my opinion, to be honest with you. But then you look at Cúilín going away to Leitrim Gales, and scoring 4 goals against them was equally as impressive as well. And you know, they have some real goal threats in their team as well. None more so than Fionn McDonagh. You know, he's a very, very tidy finisher when he gets a chance as well. You've Desi Keneally as well, who's a very, very good forward as well. I think he got 1-5 or 1-6 the last day, something like that. You know, he really, really impressed for them. But then you look at St. Bridget's, you look at the players that they have. They have the O'Carrolls, they have Bobby Nugent, Conor Hand, Eddie Nolan, you know, Shannon Kilbride. You know, they have some top class players as well. Rory Fallon. It's a stacked game, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a game that goes right down to the wire again. I know it's a cliche to be saying it's going to go down to the wire, but I think this will be a game that will only be separated by literally potentially the last score of the game. I'm going to edge at the St. Bridget's. I just think they'll have the edge. I feel like someone like a Ben O'Carroll could just spring up out of nowhere. Ben O'Carroll could be the player that, for me, does nothing in this game for like 59 minutes and then in the last minute just pops up with a 2-pointer or something, you know, just comes up with absolutely somewhere out of nothing. So I'm going to go with Bridges to win it, something like on a 118 to 116 or 117, something like that. So
yeah, Gavin is agreeing with you. Gavin says Bridget's to do a Connacht double with Scotstown last week. I'm actually going to go against the grain. I'm going to say Moycullen. I'm going to take this one now. Moycullen beats Saltill, not Macara. So you know how it goes. My prediction is passed on just like years from Pierce's to Bridget's. Yeah. But so one of us is going to look like I'm up at getting 2 back-to-back predictions wrong. Gavin says Scotstown could have beaten Moycullen in 2022 in Tuam. So Bridget's in the hide should have enough. It's a really, really good point made there by Gavin. The one thing I would say is the return of Peter Cook has really, really energized Moycullen. His return has been visible in terms of the impact that it's had on the Moycullen team. And yeah, just the way that they won that final against Saltill Knocknacara, I have to give them their respect for how good that they have been. St. Bridget's are fantastic, don't get me wrong. Beating Pádraig Pearses the way that they did in the conditions that I thought would have been teed up for Pearses to win tells me a lot about the grit and the mettle that they have in that side. And if they get through this game, which they could easily do, it's a flip of a coin. But if they get through this game, they have to be taken serious for the All-Ireland. Like, that's how highly I rate this Bridget's team. But I'll shade this one to Moycullen very narrowly. And maybe it's a little bit due to wanting to spice up the predictions as well. Because, Liam, we've been agreeing on everything. So I'm going to move on now. Connacht Championship predictions are down and official. And this one wasn't supposed to happen. Whereas Peter talked about earlier, the game got postponed. So they're going to have to run it back. The Ulster Senior Football Championship Semi Final, take 2, Scotstown against Sean O'Leary Newbridge, Sunday at 4 p.m. in the athletic grounds. The conditions last weekend were terrible, so the game wasn't not finished. But when it was stopped, Scotstown were leading, and they had already hit the back of the net. And that, to be honest, makes me wobble a little bit on my prediction. I was, 10 minutes into that game, and I was like, ooh, I'm not 100% sure. And me and Matthew were so confident that Newbridge would turn them over. Where do you stand on this one?
I think I said a while back that it would be Scotstown and I think I said it was a Scotstown and Kilmacud to reach the Ulster final, and I'm gonna stick with that. I think the way that they bet Naomh Conaill in the quarterfinal was super, super impressive. Again, the scoreline doesn't do it justice, to be honest with you. What they win by 6 points in the end. They were hammering Naomh Conaill, who were very good Donegal champions. It was a shame that the game got abandoned last weekend, to be honest with you. But look, I suppose when you look at the state of the state of the pitch, like, I suppose you can kind of understand.
We need the domes back. We need the air domes.
Honest to God, yeah. Honest, bring the domes back. That got torn down, didn't it? The one
over in the west.
Yeah, God bless. But yeah, I'm gonna shade it to Scotstown to get over the line here. I think they're a team that kind of like, well, even said like the way Ballygunner are, but I feel like they're a team that have the potential to do potentially more in the club championship. And I still feel like the way they went out against Kilmacud last year will still be stinging them, to be honest with you, conceding 5 goals in the manner that they did. So I'm going to shade it to them. I think they'll get over the line this weekend. But again, like you mentioned there, I wouldn't be exactly shocked if they didn't win either. I think it's 2 very good teams going up against each other, to be honest with you. I think it's a very spicy semi-final. But I just think Scotstown are a team that should be aiming to win the All-Ireland, to be honest with you, and especially with how I feel open the championship is this year. They should definitely be aiming very, very far. So I'm going to shade it to them I'm going to go by 5 points in the end over Newbridge.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Newbridge. I'm not going to panic too much. I do think it does need to be. I do think, we're going to disagree by the end. We'll be throwing hands at each other through the screen. But
you're a UFC fan, so I don't know.
The last game is Tullamore against Ballybowden. So, so we know, and it's about to tick past an hour 15. So, yeah, better get on with it. But I do think Newbridge, they do strike me as being a really, really solid team, and I think they would have got good intel about what Scotstown were doing well, and I don't think that Scotstown would have learned anything really about Newbridge. So I think that might give them tip the balance slightly in their favour. But I will look like an idiot if Scotstown beat them, because all the evidence was there that Scotstown might have the upper hand if they do go on and win the game. And now moving then to our province, the Leinster Senior Football Championship Semi Finals. And this is the last of the senior action from all 4 codes across the weekend. And we're going to start off with this one. Athy going up against Portarlington Saturday at 2 p.m. in St. Conleth's Park in Newbridge. 2 teams that have performed above the odds this year. Portarlington obviously more impressive than many people expected them to be in their respective quarter-final win, whereas Athy have blitzed past Baltinglass and Summerhill off the back of beating Naas in the Kildare final. They've been really, really impressive. Can Portarlington go to St. Conleth's Park and beat them?
I think they're going to.
Oh, wow.
I actually think Portarlington are going to do it. I've been speaking a lot to Ronan Coffey, the captain, the last couple of weeks, and it just, even the way he's speaking about them, there's just a lot of confidence in the group at the moment. And when you look at their tallies that they've been conceding over the last couple of games, especially since I keep repeating it, but since the first Laois final where they conceded 2-12, they conceded 7. Athy haven't been tested. I don't know about that. Look, I wouldn't agree that they haven't been tested in Leinster. I think, look, Baltinglass, I thought that was going to be a potential banana skin for them, but just Athy performed really well on the day. And I certainly thought Summerhill was going to be a banana skin for them.
I agree, as in tested, as in going down the home stretch. The game wasn't in the melting pot.
No, that's fair, but I just think they were just that good on those 2 days, more so than the other 2 teams not being good enough or anything like that. But regardless, anyways, I think Portarlington, like, they conceded 7 points in the replay in Laois, 6 points against Old Loughlin's, 1-8 against Naomh Marchand. They had 4 points conceded by half time. Their defensive structure and their defensive plans, like Pat Rose, got them working really, really well at the moment. And I like a lot of the players that they have across their team as well. The likes of Sean Byrne in midfield is a very, very good player. Colin Murphy, corner forward. Ronan Coffey, that I mentioned, I think is a superb player for them. Dara Galvin. So I just think Rian Murphy as well, I think, is a very underrated footballer as well. So look, we've mentioned it before. If this was Naas, we could be saying, they should be going on and winning the championship, so we have to get the same respect to Athy. But I just think the way Portarlington went out with the Leinster Championship as well, they've been determined to kind of represent Laois a lot better this year, and so far they've been doing that. And I think they've been equally very, very impressive. Going away from home as well, they've done it twice against the Cardinal champions, which is still never an easy place to go to, especially on a Saturday night. And after, I think it was a week after they played the replay as well, and they still went out and won comfortably enough. And then going to the Louth champions, which at the end of the day, St. Mary's RD got to the Leinster final last year, so it's never an easy place to go to. And they bet them as well. So I'm going to go with Portarlington. I think Portarlington will be heading to Croke Park next weekend, and I think they're going to win by 3 points.
Very interesting. Yeah, like, it is getting more and more. I'm going to go the other way as well. I think I tipped Baltinglass as like an underdog to potentially beat Athy. I'm not going to disrespect Athy, even though I don't respect how they carried on after they won the Kildare Championship with the chant about Philly McMahon and everything. So I'm not their biggest fan, but I think I am going to look at the evidence that they've beaten very good teams and they've beaten them well. Yeah. And I don't think Portarlington have beaten a team as good. They did wobble in the Laois Championship as well. So I think Athy are going to beat them. I think Peter's saying Port by 5. I'm going to say Athy by 3. I think you look at the players that they have. They've got a bit of a superstar there, full forward. Is it Colin Murphy, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Colin Moran Murphy. Sorry, hour 15. But yeah, Kevin Feely at midfield and players like that. I mean, they really, really do have a very, very strong team at Thai, and I just feel like that the standard of player that they have, Colin Moran,
yeah.
Yeah, I think he's 18 and he looks an absolute baller already, and probably gonna get an AFL move now at the end of the club championship or something, like, knowing the way that it's going. But he's an absolute class player, and there's no question about that. Thai can build a forward line around him, and with Kevin Feely driving forward from midfield, they're good. I don't think they're good enough to beat who I think they're going to meet in the Leinster final, though. And that takes us on to the Leinster Semi Final between Tullamore and Ballygunner St. Enda's. Now, what I will say, Liam, is I am going to tip Bowden, because I've tipped Bowden from the get-go to win Leinster before the Dublin Championship began. Now, I also am going to say this. I think if they don't, this is where they fall. I think that if they get through this, I think they beat whoever comes through in the other semi-final.
Yeah.
Regardless whether it's a tie or whether it's Portarlington. But I think Tullamore in O'Connor Park, that could be the banana skin for both.
It potentially could be. And like, it's hilarious because I was there saying a couple of weeks ago that I felt the Downs would have had enough to potentially beat Tullamore, especially with the game being in Cusack Park. And then, now, look, I had one eye on that game as well as when Troy Parrott, who I still think we should be naming after him, I was an eye on that game. Any reason to get that in. But when you look down and saw the scoreline, with, I think it was 10 minutes ago, Tullamore were winning 3-12 to 2-4. Like, they were absolutely annihilating the Downs. And a lot of that was down to their game plan. They were hunting in packs. They were pressing. They've been playing a lot more expansive football probably this year than they have in previous years, and that's probably down to the new rules, to be honest with you. They've Stephen Rochford in there, very experienced coach as well. Paul McConway's done a great job with them in his first year as manager as well. Yeah, look, having home advantage is a big help to Tullamore. And look, I think you've got some fantastic players on both sides coming out here for the game. You have Baskel, obviously, is the big standout player for Ballygunner, and then there's the big standout player for Tullamore is probably Cormac Egan. So I think for both teams, you could potentially see the two of them marking each other this weekend. So the two of them do absolutely nothing in this game, to be honest with you, if they marking each other. But I feel like Bowden, for me, probably should still have enough to win this game, to be honest with you. But just to be, why not? We'll do one more. I'm gonna back the Offaly club to do it. Just more probably heart talking than maybe head, to be honest with you, because I do think Ballygunner St. Enda's are a very, very strong team, and I was very impressed with how I thought Castown Lee Meadows could have been a potential banana skin for them in the quarter final, and especially with how they started that match as well. I think they were 7-4 down at one stage, but they came back really well to win it convincingly enough in the end. But look, just for me heart, and just because I like the lads from Tullamore, to be fair, I have nothing against them at all. I get on with them all fierce well. I'm going to back them to win this weekend, but that's kind of more probably my head talking than my heart. But I do agree with you. I think if Ballygunner do get over the line in like a neutral ground, in, soft ground, away from home, it's probably going to be here, because I think if they get to Croke Park, I don't think they'll be beaten.
Yeah, I do think that they would be beaten by a Kilmacud. If they were to get through this, but I think that they probably will win. Interestingly, Liam, people are agreeing with you in the comments. A2 says that's a very good Tullamore side, and last year will serve them well too. They could well pull it off. And Peter says Tullamore by 1 point in a thriller. So very interesting. But I do also make the point that Bowden usually do have a performance in them that flatters to deceive, and we haven't had that yet this year. So maybe it's all lining up for a huge shock here.
I go, Cormac Egan, if you're watching, you've heard it here.
But only time will tell, and we'll know, and we'll be all the wiser on Sunday at 8 p.m. for our weekend review show. Make sure you tune in with us then on Cúilín Media or Faithful Podcast or on Cléthe or Gaelic Statsman or Gaelic Fan TV. It'll be live once again across all 5 platforms. Thank you so much to everybody that got involved in the discussion or that tuned in at any point across this show. We'll see you back here on Sunday at 8 p.m. as I said. Until then, Torah.
instinct, baby.